Hi there and welcome back to another NJS instructional video. In this video I'm going to walk you through how to install a REDARC Tow Pro Elite brake controller, as well as the wiring harness and the switch insert in an Isuzu MU-X. Now this video is for information purposes only, and I do recommend that you get it installed by a licensed professional. Now inside the brake controller box we've got the main ECU here, we've got the actual control knob which adjusts the braking level, the knob itself and locking nut and washer. We've also got a wiring loom, so that connects into the side here, and the Ethernet or the CAT cable also connects into this connection and the back of the actual control knob here. We've also got a set of instructions, a sticker and also a calibration guide. Now I believe for this install as well we won't be needing this pre-made wiring loom which connects into the controller here, because in the harness itself it already contains that. We've also got the switch insert for the control knob, which will install into a blank position on the dash, probably just here near the cigarette lighter. We've got a spare port, so we might utilize that for our brake controller. And the main ECU or the brain system will be installing behind the dash, so we'll remove this fascia and we'll be installing it behind the dash in a secure location just around here on the inside. Now for this ECU we have to mount it on a fixed point, not on a loose point, so it's important that it's bolted down, not just zip tied or cable tied, because if it does move while the vehicle is operating, it actually thinks that the brakes are being activated and it'll activate the trailer brakes as well. So it's not what you want, so it has to be mounted securely in the vehicle itself. Now in the wiring kit, which is an extra item to the brake controller, we've got an additional mounting bracket, just a bit more flexibility in mounting our brake controller ECU, a whole number of cable ties. We've also got a number of rubber grommets for in and out of the vehicle when we're doing the cabling. We've got a pre-made wiring harness already set up with the diode, which is quite important. Here's our connection which will go into the brake controller, and we've also got a fused battery positive which will go near the battery itself, and also our control wiring. Now in this brake controller system, the red and the blue will be going back to the trailer plug at the back of the vehicle. Our ring terminal here, red, this will go into battery positive, and then the white here is just your grounding point. That can go on any ground point on the vehicle chassis or body, so long as it's grounded. If you have an incorrect grounding or it's not good enough, the actual control system won't work properly. And we've also got a set of installation instructions just underneath here as well. So what I've done now is I've just laid out the wiring harness on the side of the vehicle, just to give me an understanding of the actual lengths that have been supplied with this kit. So this is our battery positive and fused section. This will feed through the firewall, most likely on the passenger side. Then we've got the actual cable, the red and the blue, that goes all the way back to the wiring in the trailer plug over there. And we've also got our connection point to the actual REDARC unit and our ground. So I'll just go along the side here. So this cable will go either in the chassis or along the chassis of the vehicle. Got our diode section and our connection point over here, and that will connect into the back of this trailer plug over here. Now we're just in the engine bay, and here's our battery, and our battery positive wire, which is over here for our brake controller, will connect to this stud over here, and then we'll run it across and probably through the firewall where you see all these cables go through. We'll access that point probably through that white dot. Now it's important that once the brake controllers are installed, that we install this ring terminal, so the battery positive connection, last, that we don't do it at the start. So this is the very last thing that will be connecting to the vehicle. So this is the battery positive end that will be feeding through the firewall, and we'll go through the passenger side, and I'll show you where that comes out of. So we're just at the passenger side, and you can see where all those cables are coming through from the engine bay. So that's where we'll be feeding our battery positive into. Now we'll be installing this main brake ECU just behind this panel, so to do that just simply come underneath and just unclip it like that and like that, and just be careful that nothing breaks as you do it. There we go. And then that we can just simply disconnect over here like that, and we can remove that out of the way, keep that somewhere safe, and that gives us access to behind this port. So we'll probably install the brake controller over here. So what that will look like is like that, and that gives us ample room for the brake controller, and we'll probably secure it onto this bolted connection here. We might even use both of these screws and put it somewhere in the middle. We'll see how we go. Now with the switch insert, we're just going to use this blank plug, and because we've got the preset fitting, we can just take that out. It just unclips and put the new one in its place just there. So a nice clean install, no drilling required, well worth the $9 or $10 that the switch itself cost. So our brake controller is now installed. It's firmly fixed with that bracket that was supplied, the 2 screws that came with it, as well as the additional screw and the existing screw that was already in the actual vehicle. So now that's nice and secure, it's not going anywhere. So before we start wiring the 4-pin connection over here, I'll just finish off that Cat5 cabling all the way down to our blank plug and show you how we install that switch insert. Alright, so we have our switch insert here, and we're going to have that little hole so it's facing up, and now we've got our actual remote brake controller unit, so we'll just feed that in like that. So that's our little LED that'll pop up as well. Then it also comes with a washer, which, because we're using a pre-made switch insert, we won't actually be needing this. So then we just simply grab our locking nuts over here and feed it in and secure it such, and I'll do that up again with the correct ring spanner. And then we're going to rotate this knob all the way counterclockwise as far as it goes, and that's our 0 point. So when we go clockwise, it goes to 10, full braking, 0 is no braking, and then we get our knob and we zero it like that. But before I do that, I'm just going to tighten that locking nut. So this is just a 12mm ring spanner, and I've just tightened that up as much as it goes, not too tight. Again, we'll just make sure that it's all wound back, and then we'll mark that as our 0 point, like that. So 10 all the way, full braking, 0 no braking, and that LED is hidden within the recess there. Now, what is really important, whether you're using the switch insert or not, you want to get that press in function. If the unit can't do that, then it's not going to function properly. So that's quite important, that you're able to actually push the knob in and there's no interference with that. Now I'm just going to feed that Ethernet cable in and connect it into the side of that TowPro brake controller, so like that. And then I'm going to connect this up to our switch and then feed it in, and then probably just loop this inside over here. Alright, so we've wired in the battery positive cable, and we're not going to connect it just yet to the battery. That we'll do at the very end. And I've just cable tied it along the engine harness, and the fuse is just here, so nice and easy to access. It's always a good idea to have your fuse as close to the battery as possible. And then I've just fed it through to the firewall where my pinky is over there. So it's going into the passenger's footwell. And here's the other end of that battery positive wire, and that we're just going to run along on the inside. I've just taken the glove box off, probably not necessary, but run it along the inside, and then we'll get access to the REDARC TowPro over there. So I'll show you a closer up of where that's coming through. I'm not sure if it's very clear on camera, but that's just going out of that grommet into the footwell of the passenger side. So I've just fed that battery positive cable through, and that will connect to that connector which goes on that left hand side there. Now, according to the REDARC instructions, we've got our ground cable already installed in pin number 3, and we're going to install the black positive in pin number 4. Like that. Now I'm going to connect the grounding point to this particular screw here. I could have also done it to this screw at the time, and I've just confirmed that it's actually grounding to the battery just using a simple multimeter. So I've just grounded that white cable. I've just left it loose for now until we actually finalize the red and the blue wiring before we plug it in. Now we're just going to remove this 10mm nut to remove this kick plate on the passenger side. That way we can run our red and blue wiring to the brake controller, and also along the kick plating and through the grommet which is underneath the passenger seat. And this is that grommet which is underneath the passenger seat, so we'll run our red and blue cabling all the way to the trailer plug where we'll connect it. With that nut removed, we can take off our kick plate like that, and then this plate that comes along passenger side like that, and then we'll be able to run our wiring just through there and into the brake controller. Now what I've done, just to make life a little bit easier, I've removed that grommet, so that's the underside, clean side, fed a draw wire through which just goes through here, and that way we can actually feed our red and blue cabling through, finish that off, and then put in the kick plates and then wire it back to the trailer plug. And with the red and the blue cabling, I've just made a hole in that grommet which will go like that, and we'll just tape that up to that draw wire and then just feed it through the cabin. So now that red and blue cable has been fed, I've just given myself a bit of excess. I'm not going to do up the grommet just yet. We'll connect up these red and blue wiring into that 4-pin connector. We'll plug it into the REDARC Tow Pro, close off this area, then we'll fit the kick panels back on, and then we'll look at the wiring from the trailer plug. So we have our red and blue cables fed through, and it's just a matter of connecting it now to this 4-pin connector. Now, according to the instructions, the red wire goes into pin number 1 and the blue into pin number 2. Feed that through like that. Like that. And now all our cables are connected. So I've just taped up our wiring 4-pin connector and cable tied it, connected it to the Tow Pro, and I'm just going to remount that fascia. So now we've finished the interior perspective, we've got our fascia back in, the REDARC control knob installed, all the wiring tucked underneath, and our kick plates reinstalled. So now we're going to focus on fixing that grommet underneath and then wiring into the trailer plug. Now we've fitted our grommet back to the cab of the vehicle, and we're just going to run this wiring probably on the inside of the chassis. Not underneath. You don't want it to be damaged while you're full driving, or you're driving even on road or gravel. So we'll make sure that this is mounted in a secure place, and also don't mount it onto your brake lines or anything that moves. So now I have run that red and blue and orange cable all the way through to the rear of the vehicle, and we'll shortly connect it into that trailer plug. Just something to be mindful of, I had to remove that diode which is here and then reattach it just to feed it in all the nooks and crannies of the vehicle. Just make sure, you can see, fed it through there. Just make sure that you're well clear of the suspension system and any moving parts. So you want that cable attached to non-moving parts. That'll always be rigid to the vehicle. That's our brake controller cable, and we've just run it on the inside of the chassis rail all the way underneath through to the back there. Now where our trailer plug is, I'm just going to undo these two Phillips heads to gain access to the actual pins and the wiring there. Once we have the trailer plug open, we have to remove this red wire from terminal number 6 and then feed it through and join it up to our orange cable over here. With this red wire that we've removed, just taking that out of the harness a little bit, and this feeds into this little grommet over here and all the way through the rubber boot, and then it crimps into this connector over here. So I've just taped up that red and orange cable, and that plug is sealed now, so that's all good. So our next step is to install the blue and the red wire. The red wire will go back to terminal 6, which is this, and then the blue will go to terminal number 5. Now in the instructions, if there's already a blue cable connected over here to terminal number 5, it says to remove it, seal it off, and leave it alone so we don't actually connect to it. So in this case we do have a blue cable, so we'll remove that, seal it off, and then connect this new blue cable to it. So we've now connected our red and our blue cables and fed them through this plug here. We'll put our capping plate back on, and we'll also just terminate this, so I might just loop it like that and just put some tape. I've just reattached that cover plate and then just tidied this up a little bit, just put some electrical tape all around it, put the conduit back as well, and now I'm just going to cable tie and tuck this inside over here. I've just tidied up the wiring underneath, so cable ties, and connected it to existing harnesses there. Now with the holes that were made in the rubber grommets, I'm just going to use some Sikaflex 291 just to seal up those holes where those cables were run through. And I'm just going to use some disposable gloves. I've got a wet rag on standby and a Stanley knife just to cut the nozzle there. Now just be very careful when you are tightening the ring terminal to the battery stud. Being battery positive, if this comes in contact with any grounding parts, it will cause a fabulous spark, so just be mindful of that. Alright, so now our last piece, the ring terminal to battery positive, has been connected. Put that cap on, we'll lower the bonnet and we'll start the car and make sure that it's all working. We're just about to power up the vehicle for the first time and just confirm that the REDARC system is installed correctly. Now we don't have a trailer connected, so in theory the light should flash blue or just stay blue, or it might even turn off because there's no trailer detected. So it's just turned off because we don't have a trailer connected, and that's perfectly okay. So that's how I went about installing the REDARC Tow Pro in this particular vehicle. Now keep an eye out on a future video when I show you how to calibrate the REDARC system for the first time. I really hope you found this video informative. Don't forget to like it, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and hit that bell notification icon. Thanks for watching.